It's episode 5 of the Best Church Logo 2021 Judging with me, Bryce Cole, and my co-host Trace Garner. Before we jump into the weeds here, I just wanted to thank you guys again for your participation up to this point. In the early nomination round, you guys nominated 48 logos. That's fantastic. And then in the audience voting, I actually looked it up today, and we had roughly 11,000 audience votes for first round voting, and that contributed to the score that a lot of these got. You guys can go check out the top 10 finalists right now on bestchurchlogo.com. Vote for your number one favorite church logo of the finalists. That'll really help us out a lot, because this round of voting seals the deal. The top 10 made it, and now it's time to find out who is number one. And over the next 3 episodes, we're going to have voting open, and at that point, that will nail down our top 10 in order. Any questions? Okay, great. Let's jump into the episode. Moving on to Red Rocks Church. There's another one of the big names in here. Mm-hmm. And it's always odd to me to try and separate looking at design versus anything about the church or some of the gimmies here. They get a little bit of a cheat because they've got not only a very interesting and cool visual thing about their church, but it's also a super famous, iconic thing about their church. It is known nationwide. So it's what do you do here other than an interesting interpretation of the Red Rocks venue? It's done well. It feels professional. This feels like a lot to read and visually process. Also feel like Red Rocks and church, the delineation or the differentiation between the weights there. I feel like if you're going to do this, Red Rocks needs to be 2 or 3 weights heavier than church, when I feel like it's one click over, if that makes sense. So my brain goes, oh, is this one super long word? Is this a URL? You're weighing mentally the difference between the S and the C here, which to me feels like a not pro move. All in all, though, it is very solid. Hard to argue with this. If you're going for adult clean style, looking like a grown-up church, not getting too zany, this is fantastic execution. I'm torn on pulling it out of the box or not, because I know I would kind of like to see more of those angles and almost forget all the boxes and show me a nice hard line here and give it some action and motion. But I don't know. Either way, as it currently stands, I still gave it a 4. It's solid.
Nice. I gave it a 3, but it's a strong 3. Only reasons I didn't give it a 4 was because I actually like the icon. It looks like a really strong outdoor brand, which I think is going to do great. It's obvious for Colorado, and this is one of those brands too, where you have to have church, because Red Rocks, you can't just have a thing that says Red Rocks with a logo like that. That could literally be the signage for a merchandising store right outside the Red Rocks. If it didn't say church,
you have to have church here for sure.
Yeah, I think the church name is there. I would agree that the weight change is not super dramatic, but I'll tell you that I don't necessarily. I'd have to see here, because typically I'm not a fan of stacking them close and then changing the weight and make it look obvious, But
was that a trend in your mind? Was that a specific time and place trend?
I think it happened a lot more than that. What I think the thing is there's a place for it, so I don't want to knock it off right off the bat. But let me say this: there used to be a professor in college when I was in design school, and he used to make this thing called first stop sign design decisions. I know it's a long name, but essentially he's okay, let's pretend you're going to the grocery store. You get in your car, you pull it out of your driveway, and you get to the first stop sign. You haven't gone anywhere, and that's you've started your journey, but you're at the first stop sign. That's kind of like what I feel like that design decision is. It's kind of like, oh, how do I make these two things look different? Oh, I'll make one of them thinner. It's like, to me, it's the first stop. Like it's the very first stop sign on your journey. I think there's a lot more play that can happen. Red Rocks is really, like you said, it's super iconic. The shape is super interesting. Immediately, like what I think of Red Rocks, I think of all those stairs. There's some cool stair stepping things you could do with typography. Yeah. Like in there's like tons of color.
Dude, just that you could each of these down like 20 pixels.
You could play with something like that. Could be really interesting. It could be all the same weight, but just church step. The whole word is just down like 10 pixels. So there's just kind of like a step. There's just a lot that I feel like, and even there, maybe I'm only getting to like the second or third stop sign. But I guess I'm just saying I don't know if there's like a lot of like how much was there, but it's a solid mark. I'll tell you this. This is also one that I'm not really interested in going ultra modern with. I wouldn't, like in a rebrand, I wouldn't go in here and just make these mountains like just like two triangles or something like that. I really do appreciate I love the little lines, the angle to them. I like the lines in them and stuff like that. So I appreciate that, and that's why I think it's a strong 3.
Restoration Church. I'm gonna say, like in what I was given, there were some other versions of it that did and didn't have this in it, or like different lockups. This was like the cleanest one I could find. It's got this kind of tagline-y thing in here, which I'm assuming clients pushing for that. I am going to visually ignore it for my judging and thoughts here. I think this is cool. I like the color set. I think it gives it a lot of like dynamic, interesting stuff. I don't know. Like there's a part of me that's like, and this is maybe like dumb designer thing, but like, is this a font that already had a lot of these lines drawn and you just filled them in and like called it a logo? But like in reality, it's probably something close to like the family of this R or that exact thing. And then they like drew it in there and like, that's cool. That's interesting. I'm finding myself a lot tonight, like writing down a lower score and then wanting to give a higher one. I gave it a 3, but I think it could be a 4. This is like a high 3 if it's a 3. Things wrong with it. Like I'm not sad about this at all. It's all over here. This feels like worked a lot on this, and like that, all that's over there, right? The spacing is super wide. The scale is super nuts on this too. And my brain is really trying to parse out, like, are these the same font or close enough that like it works or not? I don't know. Could be over analyzing, but this just feels like this took about like 40 seconds and this took an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I don't know why I'm giving such specific times to it, but there you go.
I think those are all great points. I am in agreement with a lot of those. I gave it a 3. And I think it's that. I would actually say it's a low 3 because the R is beautiful. That R that's like an illustration style that's super nice. And I think the thing that throws me off though with it is that it does feel a little bit like Creative Market. Like it feels like a little bit like a font or like a type style you could buy. That's not a type style that you could like type with, but like, a vector set of the alphabet. Yeah. It seems kind of like that, which I think that's like such a shot at a designer if they built this. And I feel bad. And so I don't want to make it seem like that's a bad thing.
Sorry you worked so hard. It looks like a stock graphic.
Yeah. And I've built a logo from Creative Market before too. So like, I'm not even going to talk like I'm better than that. Yeah. But I just think there's other design principles that weren't taken into effect here of like scale and positioning and all that stuff. So I give it a 3.
Got some good things and some bad things going on. This one and the next 2 are by Quincy Harriman.
Nice. Good Quincy. What's up?
Quincy. All right. Resurgent Church.
Resurgent with that double R. You got those double R churches. What's up, Quincy?
Yeah, well, and then the next one actually starts with an R too. So audience score wise, he had to kick
monopoly on the R's, dude.
All right, here's what I'm loving. We got an icon that is interesting. It is not doing anything too crazy. It's not telling a ton of story to me, but there's something going on. I love just how nice this spacing feels. Like the curve matches the R perfectly. It's solid. I gave it a 4. I would give it a soft 4. Like I need more of a story here, but like it's good. It's a good, just solid, clean mark. And I feel like 8 out of 10 churches you show this to are going to approve it from a like business standpoint. Like this is going to be a popular look and it's going to play well.
Mm-hmm. I also agree. I like the bold mark of it, and I like the simplicity of it. People are going to recognize it right off the bat. I give it a 3 because I give it a 3 because I can understand where maybe there's like, oh, well, this was like really easy. I think like you mentioned that there's a lot of things here that are done intentionally that were just done right. Like that border could be a little thicker, it could be a little thinner, but I think exactly how it is super strong. That curve in the corner could be a little bit more dramatic, but I think exactly how it is actually how it should be. So there's just things that you get right, and so that's why it's up there. Like that's why it gets a 3 and not a 2.
It delivered construction in spades.
Yeah, no, yeah, it totally did, which I appreciate. I think that you could go like in terms of R's. I think you could go a little bit more unique. You could try out a few different R's like that, but then again, this R inspired that shape, which I think is nice. So give it a 3.
Bada boom. I don't know if I showed your score already or not, but here we go. All right, so this one did not get the audience score, but his next one did. Resurrection City Church. We had a long word with Resurrection. I love the stone and the tomb thing. Super easy to see it. It's a great icon. Is it on the nose? Yes. But like, what else are you going to do? Like, you not going to like talk about this moment in this logo? No, like this is a good way to go here. I'm trying to figure out, like, is this an extended version of this same font? It pairs pretty well with it. I'm not sure, and I'm sure it's in the like brand family, but like this feels like a much more natural fit over to the side of it rather than stacked like this. If you're gonna stack it, I'd probably center all these elements, but I mean it's nothing too crazy there. I gave this one a 4, and it also got the audience vote. Quincy Harriman.
So I give this one a soft 3, and it's because I'm gonna do like a little speed. I'm gonna do like a speed round real quick. A speed kind of like thoughts about this. Okay, so there's like a lot of things going on here. I can tell that there was like a few different ideas, and we just decided to not really edit through them and just kind of go for it. The R in the circle, I think there's a version of this logo without the R. I think there's a version of this logo where the hole for the stone is smaller and like is a little bit like not as stretched and a little bit more believable. I think there's a version of this logo where it's the R is still there and it's resized, and then overall the whole logo is like very disproportionate in scale. I would make the icon a lot smaller. Cool. Like you said, put it beside it. There's really no idea or like no representation of city in here. It's just, could be fine, but I just think there's like a lot of these words are like pretty meaningful, and so I feel like you could do quite a bit. I do like, so here's what's interesting. I noticed too that R looks like the same R, just stretched, and maybe this is what I was thinking for the logo before, which was Resurgent. It's like that R, that more unique R being used above could be interesting, which even makes me even to this one, like that stretched R. Like, is there, if you didn't have those shapes and you just had that stretched R, would like a circle moving over the negative space in that R kind of look like a stone rolling back or using the negative space in the R? So there's like a lot of different variations of this. Wow. There's a lot of variations of this. And I think this one's fine. I think this is totally fine. I gave it a 3. That's good. But I think there's some other things here could be fun.
Yeah. Talking through this, like what could like launch this into 5 category for me is if and this is the kind of stuff like I'll in early like conversations with clients, I'll say, here's an idea. I don't know if it can work. Like if I can pull it off, if I can make the lines work, great. I can't promise like magic negative space or this like idea working. So I don't know if this is impossible, and Quincy already tried it, whatever. But if this became a heart shape or an R, and you kind of like hinted to some other ways to pull that off, but like kill this dude and like this shape now means two things. Like I'm very sold at that point. And I like your note about like less of a tomb here. I think that could be like more visually interesting too, like as a tweak. But yeah, the thing that would really just catapult this into like phenomenal zone would be making this mean more than one thing.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Whoa, little freaky moment there. Saint Church. All right. So I gotta preface this one with the thing. One of the ground rules for all this stuff is we're talking about logos, not brands, right? And I'm trying to like remove any baggage, history, prior knowledge, like size of the church or relationship with the church, if it was a client or whatever, all that stuff trying to go out the window. And fortunately, I was able to do that the first time I saw this. Nice. Like, whew, that's like super. Get out of here. This is interesting. Like it is like very few lines, and I can't put my name on like why I'm intrigued by this, but I am. And you know, maybe some like math scientist or whatever, probably you are going to break it down. What's the golden ratio? I don't know. Like, but there's a reason. Like I was like, this is like very simple, and like I don't know what like makes me not think it's just a little like cop out like stock item, whatever. So that was my initial reaction, was like strong, positive, pretty simple, but like maybe this makes a lot of sense. And then I saw the website and all their other materials. And I am not going to talk about them right now. And I'm having to like sit on my hands because the rest of this brand is phenomenal, like exceptionally well done, like very, very good branding everywhere else. And I'll drop a link in the video here down at the bottom so you guys can see it. But that's not what we're judging today. We're not looking at the rest of the brand. We're looking at the logo. Now here, Trace, I gotta tee this one up for you, and we gotta kind of decide on air right now. Okay. So on their website, as an example, you can't. This is not a static, and I'm bringing it up in context. This is not a static logo. In every single environment, unless it's a place that requires a static image, this is a GIF, and the inside of what is happening in the window changes it's like on a cycle. Yeah. And are we counting that as a logo? So basically, they've got like 5 or 6 logos, or are we saying like we're only judging this shape that we're looking at here? We're looking at just this shape, for sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely, just the shape. Yeah. What did you give it? Did you say? That's what I'm trying to look it up here. I gave it a 5, and that seems aggressive. That's and lofty. I hope I'm not doing that because I saw the other things was influenced by it. Let's say this shape alone is like 4 creeping 5 or like a low 5. Yeah. Like a 5 with expectation attached to it. I'm really eager. Let me tell you this. I'm really eager to see the website and see the rest of the brand elements. But I think in the finale episode, like we got to like look through some of that stuff together. If this makes the cut. I think it's good. That's a good idea. I think that's a good idea. I gave this a 4, which is also really high for a window. And I think it's not much going on here. But I think it's doing a lot for a few different reasons. One, Saint Church. Like there's a very like it's a good name. It's also like it's not hiding that it's evangelical or that it's Christ centered or that it is a church. It's very obvious. And Saint has like a sense of like purity to it. And an open window is like the most freedom, imaginative, beautiful, freeing type of thing. The specific shape of it is of a chapel. The window isn't
this isn't a square window. This is like a very intentional, like longer,
This
taller
is
window.
like,
and the crossbars in it are intentionally high. Obviously, it like then outlines a cross, but there's not two lines there. You know, they didn't try to like add two horizontal lines that kind of continue to make a window. So I think there's just a lot there that help push that like airiness. And then to what you said, which is something I was kind of going to kind of mention, was like when you build a logo that's this simple, you can do a lot. You can, the elements and applications can like become endless. Like you can do, so like the obvious ones that are super strong are actually go ahead and make this a window, make this a portal for media, for video, for photography, or make this like when people look through this, show them what their life is like with Jesus. And like that type of like platform and logo that can do things like that is super strong. And the thing that's tough is like, you know, I'm about to sound like I'm going to roast. I'm not trying to roast at all, but let's go back and let me talk real quick about New Beginnings Intercessory Ministries. Like there's incredible iconography in that. There's like an eagle and a mountaintop and a cross and all these things. But like you've now given all of the visual baggage that comes with an eagle, all of like the visual baggage that comes with mountains. There's like a lot that you're telling somebody from that. When you have a logo this simple, you're kind of just telling them.
It's more of a launch pad and less of like a TV series finale where they like really land all the planes. Like, you know exactly what all the characters are doing now. They're like, okay, cool. Like, thank you. But now this whole thing, there's no imagination, no like next step left to it.
Right.
Just to piggyback on what you're saying here, one of the other points I wanted to make, like you'll notice some of these, like we've got a word mark next to it, some we don't. I can't find a version of this where there was a word mark attached to it. So they are always saying like this icon is it. That's all we have to say about this. And Saint Church, like again, no other context other than what I'm looking at here. I'm going to assume it's a more traditional style church, or at least a church with a more traditional building. And then, you know, knowing that like tie in with the window and all that kind of good stuff. And the fact that these are like perfect little like quarters of a circle. There's your math.
Do you know where it's located?
Fruit. It is somewhere in the United Kingdom. Okay. And after this thing made it in the running, this is also like cheating extra info, like scale tipping stuff that hopefully didn't play a factor in my judging. Somebody messaged me and was like, oh, that one's so good. This group did it. And it's like internationally known, like super award winning agency.
Cool. Wait, so we do have the designers of it?
No, because I didn't write them down on the spreadsheet, because this is a ramshackle operation over here. Wait till next year when we've got our wind tunnel aerodynamic lens for this stuff. Also, you have the same spreadsheet. Like, help a guy out. I'm trying to run.
I'm sorry.
On this. God bless America. All right.
Wait, I looked. I just noticed it wasn't.
That one got the audience score too. It's doing pretty peachy.
You're gonna be okay.
Seacoast Church. Nope. Wait, these are out of order. All right, we're looking at Shindler Drive right now.
Yeah.
This one is also by Jesse Taylor Creative. I like the warmth. I like that these edges are not like hard. I love that Baptist Church is like tucked in here. Little nervous about the scale of that. Because obviously it's put in there to make this all like become one unit. But what does that look like at smaller sizes? Does this get lost? What's the plan there? Because Shindler is long, Drive is short. Probably just shifted the icon and you're like, responsive logo decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't even talked about like the SD here. Like this just flows super nice. Very imaginative use of like way to connect a D and an S, which are kind of sort of incongruous letters in some senses. And then another weird one that I love is that we use the vertical bar on the S. Like that's not an obvious move, and it's not happening anywhere else, but it adds a lot of character and kind of, I can't think of the right word. It doesn't ground it, but it like rather than feeling like a bunch of like kind of loose swirls, it makes it feel more structured.
Nice.
Yeah. Poop. So again, the colors kind of take it down a notch for me, and that's like a preference thing. But like in a different context,
it is a 3-color logo.
Real excited about this. And I think I've got a lot of respect for some of the choices that are made here. What did I give it? I gave it a 4. I gave it a 4.
Boom. Okay. I think I have a really bad habit of just like seeing logos like this and not necessarily tending to like them right off the bat.
Well, you're fired.
I knew seeing this that it was done well. I'll tell you that. Like in terms of how these logos are constructed, this is like really well, like is really nice.
A smart person tried hard.
Yeah. I gave it a 3, but I'll say it's a really strong 3. And I think I didn't give it. Honestly, in its design, in its own right, it's not the same design style as like we just gave a Saint Church a 4. It's not obviously the exact same style, but in this particular art direction, it's really strong. Like this doesn't necessarily give me the same minimalist vibes. You couldn't do all the applications as maybe something's happening at the church, one of some of the other churches we've given before, but it is a very strong aesthetic and it's happening and it's coming together really nice. So let me ask you this, because I like it. Are the letter forms rounded? Like are the edges rounded on drive and stuff like those letter forms?
This is a pretty clean file. This is represented pretty well. So there's some little pixelation if you zoom in, but it's pretty clean.
So that is nice. Like that, those softening those letter forms give it like a lot. Call. It gives it a lot, and it's a lot nicer sitting next to this curvier shape. And then even like the S being closer in, like the S and the D are not aligned, like blocked. They're kind of angled in a little bit, and I think that's
like follow
really
the
nice.
flow. So to me, this one
there's a lot of. Good.
It did a good job pairing the word mark and the type, or like the icon or whatever. But I'm curious too. Like, okay, say we got served this exact same thing, black background and gold, or just pull a random number colors. And you just see this icon. I feel like I give it a potentially higher score there, and it's not because this was not done well, but because. Again, the designer was kind of given a little bit of like a tough bag here and did a good job with it. But like, if you just make this an icon, it is a pretty strong icon and would be even better on its own, at least in terms of this context.
If it was, I think if it was honestly like a black background with just an all white, like this whole logo we're looking at was all white, I would have given it a 4. I think you're right. The color is throwing it.
That's super interesting.
The color did throw me a little bit just because there's a lot of kind of character already, and then you're at a 3-color logo. But
there you go.
Yeah, I'll stick with my gut, which was 3. But let's move on. Sorry.
Seacoast. This one was, if I remember correctly, an audience favorite, and it was not one of my favorites. I feel like I see the S, I see the water, the wave. I think it's interesting that we didn't round all the edges. I don't like love it or hate it. I think it's just an interesting call. I'm trying to remove like my personal preferences from the conversation. This feels a little bit boring to me, or like of a certain like place and time, or like everybody feels safe and good about this thing. It feels corporate. And we've looked at some other ones that like we were applauded that looked corporate also, but this one, I don't know. It's a 3. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm giving it like a strong 2 to a low 3. We can say 2 because I will. It's underwhelming. It's just not super fun. I grew up in Silver Lake, and this looks like just like the logo of the neighborhood I grew up in, Silver Lake. I know that sounds whack, but I'm just like, that's that's that kind of what the feeling I'm getting from this.
It could work in a lot of other circumstances. Yeah. And I feel like we might get some like hate mail on this one because it was an audience favorite. And I feel like it's the kind of thing, if you're putting on the business hat and not the designer hat, it's going to get approved a lot.
Yeah.
But there you go.
No, this is definitely like going to check a lot of boxes for a large team or somebody that's like wanting to like have a clean logo. So I understand that. But I'll tell you this, watch this real quick. Like, okay, make make the little swirl go, or like the shape in the middle thinner, make the rounded corners less rounded and all of them the same, and not so dramatic of like a swirl. And you already kind of give it a little bit more of a modern feel. It becomes a little bit more like an app shape, which I'm not super keen to, but you're kind of tightening it up a little bit, which could be fun.
I feel like moves it up a letter grade for both of us. I could be at a 4, like, because that's where my brain kept going, is like the longer we talked about it, I really do want this to be a more significant like piece of real estate, and I want it to be rounded. And then like all this feels like it doesn't just flow right here. Then there's movement around the edges, and you feel like there's kind of like this flow to the whole thing. I don't know. And that will do it for episode 5. Thank you guys for hanging along for the ride. I'm excited. We just have one more episode left of live judging before we get to the finale. I'm so excited. Today's episode is brought to you by Vive Media Company. If you'd like to work with me and my team on a branding project, we'd love to have you. But we also do sermon series work and videos and all kinds of cool stuff. Whether you need ongoing needs or a one-time project, come hit me up at Vive Media Company and let's talk.